All right, welcome back to another episode of the Top of Our Cricket Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Kevin Henry, and with me, I got Sam and Walter. Now, Darren Sammy was appointed as the West Indies coach for all three formats, right? Some people didn't take a liking to it. Recently, Jeff Dujan had some things to say about it. He didn't think, for one, that Sammy should have been appointed that far out, given the fact that the West Indies team were going to Pakistan and Andre Kohli was still the coach. And then he also mentioned, Kohli's about the most qualified coach in the region. I got some things that I would take up with Dujan with regards to qualified, where that is concerned. Also, we had former West Indies wicketkeeper Derek Murray, who recently in an interview with TVJ said he don't like the idea of a sole selector. He's from the old school. He actually said that, he's old school. He would prefer to have, multiple selectors and it goes that way. Walter, when we spoke, behind the scenes recently, you had a different, view on Derek Murray's comments. Care to share?
Fellas, viewers,
Be respectful now.
I will be respectful. As a student of history, I will be respectful. I respect what the elders have done. I will say this. I respect the legacy of West Indies cricket, but I keep saying we need to think outside of the box. And sometimes we need to move away. Cricket is change. So the elders sometimes need to, just not say anything. Because our elder of West Indies cricket, before I say anything, one of the most respected, pick Rajendra Chandrika. I'm not saying anything more where that is concerned. Right? So you see, if you look at modern sport, basketball, football, it's the managers who pick the teams. They have the scout. There's a system that is set up. There's a scouting system. Granted, I don't agree with the scout in Guyana because I think he's an idiot, right? But yeah, because he's he's been spiteful to a lot of cricketers. However, I ain't gonna call his name because I want nobody sue me. But yes, he's been spiteful. He has a history of being spiteful. But I'm saying is that yes, we have a scouting system, and then people are, and it's not necessarily Darren Sammy alone picking the team. But that final product, yes, Darren Sammy is responsible for, and it's a model that works in the major sports, and what it does, we have someone in Darren Sammy that we can hold accountable.
Let me ask this question before. Did you agree with the Sammy appointment? I think I should have started there.
Yes, when Sammy was appointed this captain of West Indies team, I didn't think he should have been. I think it should have been Darren Ganga at the time. So where we talk, we know we talk everything. It should have been Darren Ganga at the time. But Sammy has evolved into a leader of men. I can tell that people respect him. He understands the modern cricketer. He understands what is going on with cricket today, right? So I think that, yes, he's not like a level. I don't know how far he is. The last I heard, he was a level 2 coach, and I don't think he's level 3, 4. But he knows what's going on. He has ideas. He can communicate with the modern players, and that's what we need at this particular point in time. People got to get this. Darren Sammy should not be teaching our cricketers to play cricket. Absolutely. When you're interested in this cricket, you're supposed to be no, but he should guider of men, strategy, planning. That's what we need, and we got to stop thinking like that.
And cheerleading. Come on, boys. Come on, boys.
Well, this we good for doing. This is number one quality.
Sammy, Sammy, did you agree with the Sammy appointment?
Yes, I was quite fine with it. If we should step back for a bit, way back. When you look at Clive Lloyd, one of the reasons Clive Lloyd was very successful was that he was a good man manager. People would go out there and
Play for him.
play for Clive Lloyd. Injured toe. There was a bowl, I don't recall who it was. Had an injured toe and went out there and bowled because I'm doing this for my captain.
Yeah.
You see? So I'm not saying that Darren Sammy is on the level of a Clive Lloyd. I'm not putting him there.
Yeah.
But in terms of managing men, I do feel there is something going on there that allows him to get results. You see? So I have no problem with Darren Sammy taking control of all three teams. That being said, however, I also do not have any great expectations when it comes to red ball cricket and Darren Sammy, right?
Why?
For the simple reason that our performance or performances over the years in red ball cricket has nothing to do with who is the coach per se, or who's the president of Cricket West Indies or what have you. Our problems there, in my opinion, are more structural. It goes back again to what is happening at the territorial level in terms of our cricket, right? Because for you to play test cricket, yes, it demands from you way more than any other form of cricket, we can all agree. Yes? So for you to stay focused, mentally focused for 5 days or 3 days or whatever it is, to be out there in the sun from 9 in the morning until 5:30, 6 o'clock or what have you, that calls for a lot from our cricketers. And if we're not providing them with that, allow me, stamina, for want of a better word, then I don't have much hope for our red ball cricket per se. So I will admit, I still back our teams. If there's test cricket tomorrow and it comes to Sabina, I will be there. Myself and the 5 other people, I will be there, right? But I don't have any great expectations, for our test cricket per se.
Before I ask you to address Derek Murray's comments, do you think there's a fundamental, because you mentioned a player being able to be focused for 5 days, right? Do you think we are teaching the game in the right way that would allow a player to function, right, for 5 days?
Question you gotta ask is if the players want to play.
I think that's for you and Walter to answer.
Players they want to play for the modern player wants to play for 5 days. What's Dalbelly from Kanji? He want to play for 5 days?
But I'll tell you one of the problems, Kevin, and this should be no surprise to anyone. But why it is striking to me to repeat it here is I heard from a young Jamaican cricketer in recent times. Yeah. What he lamented was the lack of proper coaches within the cricketing setup, right? It comes back again to coaching. And then we can talk about other things too. Yes. But if you're going to talk about players being able to lock in, to focus and to play 4-day cricket properly, and so prepare themselves well so they can go on to play test cricket, yes, you need to have good coaching and you need to be able to play a lot of cricket. You see, I'm sure if you look at what's happening in India, every weekend, if not every afternoon, there's something going on. And when I say weekend would be, there's probably a tournament every weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Ranji Trophy aside, I'm sure there are other things we don't even know about that going on every weekend, right? So if we're not doing certain basic things, that practice every day and having people to help us to figure out little problems, I don't see how
Let me
We
give you a
can do
simple way of
great
thinking outside
things.
of the box. And Irfan, I'm speaking to you directly here. We love cricket. You love cricket. We don't have to have the people in the coaches don't have to be teachers. Some of the $40,000 we give them, some of those people can be our coaches. We could train them how to deal with adolescents. We could have football. You could have cricket programs, coaches. These people can go and they could be part of with more planning. They could be part in Guyana per se, right? They're just thinking outside of the box. Imagine if we had a proper coach, cricket coach, trained cricket coach in each school, a coach in Burbiside, a coach in BEI, a coach, not one coach doing all the schools, a coach per school, and then you have a tournament.
Let me get Sammy's thought on Derek Murray's comments about he's not in agreement with Sammy being the sole selector, and they should have, he's from the old school, we should have or stick to the multiple selectors with a chairman or selector. Go ahead, Sam.
Boy, where to start with that? You see,
Big up.
so I have to be respectful to elders. You have to be very careful how you put these things over, right? Listen. Personally, I do not think that would make much of a difference if we go back to what was done years ago, right? I don't see how it would make a difference. Sammy being the lead selector, how I would prefer to call him is the lead selector. Why? He is not the only person making this decision, right? Technically, we could say yes on the books, he's the selector. But do you think that Sammy would sit down by himself and just select a team? That's too much pressure, right? So he's obviously getting inputs from various places, right? But what I would love to see, and what is more important than what the Derek Murrays of this world should be talking about, right, is rules, how it is we are going to select our teams, right? So it's transparent. So any young man in high school could pick up the stats and say, okay, based on what we understand are the rules set out by West Indies cricket, here is what we expect. Now, I put a caveat to that, right? We just simply can't pick people, based on statistics. That wouldn't fly. At some point, you understand? But at least we can have rules which say, well, okay, these 20 people are under consideration. We couldn't pick person X because person Y has more experience, and even though his average might have slightly dipped here, what have you, he is still, has the XP. He gets more points simply because of his international experience or what have you. And in fact, international experience can factor into this rules-based thing that we use to decide who we put in the team. So I am quite fine with Sammy doing it. I don't have a problem.
I'll tell you what. I'll deal with the last one first. One of the problems in West Indies cricket is our inability to see the need to change quickly. We're often left behind in regards to change and adapting to what's in front of us, right? And I think it's one of the biggest reasons why we find ourselves where we are, right? Second thing, West Indies are accustomed to picking players based on raw stats. A bunch of selectors sit down and they look and they go, well, he had 700 runs last season, whatever. And men are being picked on raw stats, right? International cricket doesn't demand that anymore, right? It's about how a player fares in the different conditions. You understand? It's about how a player fares in the different conditions. And which is one of the reasons why we are struggling is because we are not putting our players in different conditions to prepare them for international cricket. Right? That is one of the reasons why we're struggling. Yes, you can scream all day you don't have money. But how do you mitigate, right? What you're just going to sit there and go, well, we can't afford it. No, you've got to get creative. You've got to get creative to get your teams, your A teams to England, to Pakistan, to India, to Australia, to South Africa, to Bangladesh on a more consistent basis, right? So Derek Murray can scream all he wants about selection and what he's accustomed to from the olden days. That is the olden days. This is 2025, and obviously the multiple selectors haven't been working. Because look at the current condition of the West Indies team. It hasn't worked. So now we have a system where Darren Sammy has a bunch of scouts in different areas, and they're looking at way more than just, all right, this man scored 300s. There's nothing wrong with somebody going out and scoring 300s. But how will he fare? How does he fare against consistent short pitch bowling?
Yep.
You understand? How does he fare against really good leg spin? How does he fare against really good off spin or left arm Chinaman, whatever the case whatever you want to call it, right? How is he going to fare on a dust bowl? What does his decision making look like? So I'm not going to knock it, because you can't knock something unless you try it, right? And I think one of our biggest problems is we have something, we get comfortable with it, and we go, well, this is what we're going to walk with for the rest of our life. You see what I'm saying? On the topic of Jeff Dujan, by the way, he did make a good point recently in another interview he did. He said, West Indies first class, essentially said what we've been saying, West Indies first class cricket is not fit for purpose. Right? He said a lot of the players at the first class level needs to be retaught the game. He made a distinction between teaching and being coached. You understand? He was willing to go that far. It's like you have a little kid like Sammy, like you got your young boy, you take him out in the yard, and you're trying to teach him the game. Right? He says for a lot of West Indian players, that's where they are. First class players. They need to be taught the game. And I have to agree with him to some degree, because when you watch certain players at the first class level, the only thing you can do is hold your head like this and ask yourself, what am I watching? Right? And how did he get here? How did he get to what is supposed to be the finishing school?
West Indies cricket.
West Indies cricket. Right? So I have to agree with Jeff Dujan on that point. What I'm not going to agree with him on, though, is what he had to say with Sammy's appointment and Andre Coley being the most qualified coach in the West Indies. Here is why I'm going to take issue with that. Andre Coley has been working with a lot of the West Indies youngsters, right, and academy guys. But if you're looking for someone who is really qualified, who has a track record of winning, I will go Isan Crandon. And not because he's Guyanese. Because he's successful, right? And for some reason, Isan Crandon is not even on the radar of anything cricket related right now in terms of coaching in the West Indies. How do you have a coach who managed to guide a side 5 consecutive years to the West Indies Championship, and we can't find a place for him in West Indies cricket?
He built a culture.
Exactly. And you're going to sit here and tell me Andre Coley was never won anything, doesn't know what it takes to win over a season repeatedly for 5 years, and you're going to tell me he's the most qualified? You see what I'm saying? Andre Coley did not take the West Indies team forward. First and foremost, let's get that clear. He did not take the West Indies team forward. I am not going to count the victory at Brisbane as anything forward. It was a one-off. You understand? We won. There was another one-off against Bangladesh. There was another one-off against Pakistan. 3 matches that we won out of how many? We haven't won a series under Andre Coley. So what are we looking for really? What I've said is a change needed to be made, and this was about the best time to make that change. I think it was Sammy, you mentioned it, you might not have said it in this many words. Darren Sammy is a leader of men. He understands what it takes to get a dressing room together. Because when he came on board and you had Chris Gale, Dwayne Bravo, Kyron Pollard, Sunil Narayan, all these are big characters in the West Indies.
Andre Russell.
Yeah, Andre Russell, Lendl Simmons.
Suleiman Ben.
Yeah, Suleiman Ben. All these are big characters, you understand? In the West Indies dressing room. It takes a lot to get those guys on the same page. It takes a lot.
And Kevy, you know what, and fellas, you know what I'll also say? It's important for West Indies to have a clear idea who the leader is. You know, because our first mate is Australia, and the Australians are coming for blood. That one-off that we had, they were embarrassed, and it stung them. They're coming for blood. So it's important for us to prepare and understand that this is a war. This is what these fellas are coming for. They are annoyed that even though that Shamar had a lifetime performance, they were annoyed because they were embarrassed. They didn't say that's how they are. The Australians are coming for blood. And if Shamar plays, they'll try to destroy him as well.
I'll tell you something. Jason Holder made a point in an interview recently, or a couple of days ago. I think he was on Mason and Guest. And they asked him about Barbados' performance against Trinidad, where Barbados were bowled out for, I think it was 86 or whatever the case it might be. And the ball darting around and doing things. And Jason Holder said 2 things. He said, these are the type of pitches that we need to play on. These are the type of conditions that we need to be operating in, because when we go overseas, we are more than likely, it's more than likely that we will encounter this, whether in England, South Africa, or Australia, with the jukes ball moving around. Our players struggle when the ball starts moving. Our players struggle when the ball starts spinning. So you have to give the players the conditions to operate in. And he said he didn't, while the score was not something to write home about, it was something that, it was the type of conditions that they needed to be in, right? For players to understand what it takes to succeed at the international level. Jamaica got bowled out for 44 a couple of weeks ago. Because players struggled, the ball started darting around, and people didn't know what to do with themselves. You go to South Africa, that's what you're going to be seeing. You go to Australia, that is what you're going to be seeing. You go to England, that is what you're going to be seeing. So you have to get accustomed to it. West Indies have got to do better with their pitch preparation for one. We're talking about, we're going to leave the lower levels out of the way for a minute. Pitch preparation. You're going to ask fast bowlers to run and bowl, and you want them to bowl quickly, and you want them to use the conditions, but you don't give them proper pitch to play on.
That's the best pitch I've seen at Bridgetown in years, even for Test cricket. That pitch was quick, and we had some young fast bowlers from Trinidad bowling quick. Those guys were not just bowling quick; they were bowling the right lengths and lines.
That they were doing. I was impressed because yes, the Duke's ball does a lot, right? But if you don't run and put it where it needs to be, you're wasting time. That is why I was upset with Niall Smith the other day in Jamaica when Kurt McKenzie made 140 odd in that second innings, I think it was, right?
Second innings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Early out in Kurt McKenzie's innings, he went up there, beat the bat, and then it was like, okay, that's it. I didn't get the wicket. I hit the right line, the right length. I didn't get the wicket. Well, okay, well, I'm going to move from there. I'm going to try to do something else. And that is where he was supposed to live, right? You having a certain ball that does certain things doesn't negate the fact that you still need to bowl good lines, good lengths consistently. And I think had he worked there a little bit more during his spell, Kirk McKenzie wasn't going to get a century.
McKenzie's a confidence player. If he gets, after a while, he gets going. He gets confidence, and the truth is that Niall and them. I watched that innings. I like the innings, but he wasn't tested a lot.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't tested.
He took advantage of very bad bowling, and
yeah.
I ain't give him wrong for that, but that's not what he's gonna experience at the top level. If he had made that against Trinidad, I'd be like, again that bowling attack. Yeah.
That Trinidadian pace bowling trio that is now no longer, because Jaden Seals and Anderson Phillip have left and they went to they headed off to England to play county cricket. So it just leaves Joshua James, and I don't know who's going to come in for Trinidad, next week. It's sad actually. But that pace trio, I've been watching them all season long, and I think they are the best so far in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happened that they were given the perfect conditions, and they did not take their feet off the Bajan necks in both innings, which is what Guyana failed to do up in Jamaica. You have the conditions. Don't take your foot off the gas.
That Savannah Park pitch wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't a bad pitch. Not at all. Not by any stretch.
Yeah, but this will say it's maybe some of the pitches are getting better. You know what? To be honest, a lot of the pitches are better this year.
You think so?
In terms of like the traditional ones, Jamaica's wasn't too bad. The ones in Barbados is not too bad. Some of them in Guyana are quicker than before. I mean, in Guyana, I'm talking quick for Guyana, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's say if we had like a 2 out of 10 for Guyana, I'm thinking it's about a 5-6 right now.
You've rated them higher.
Yes, it's higher. You if you bend your back, you could get something out of it. So we can see that some effort is being put into it. Maybe a lot more needs to.
Yeah, there's a lot more consistency with that needs to be put into the preparation of pitches across the region.
Guys, I'm not lying to you guys. I watch more local cricket than I would watch it. I wouldn't watch IPL. I would watch the scores, but for me, I'm not watching that nonsense.
I'm telling y'all, I am not watching the IPL this year. I am not. I refuse to. Until things change on a global stage where India is not dictating, you understand, how cricket is played, I am not watching the IPL.
And the truth is, I know we finishing wrapping up. I didn't even rate there that the Champions Trophy win. You stay one place and play cricket, and then you could win, and you get it. No, I can't rate that. I can't win like that.
Sammy, would you say you would put an asterisk at the Champions Trophy victory?
Why not? I mean, it's like your home field advantage. You
Sammy,
play all
it's like
in one
Sammy,
space.
is that like your Lakers bubble victory? By the way, guys.
Watch Walter got the Toronto Raptors.
Well, this wasn't deliberate, but you can consider this Lakers yellow. I don't know.
I guess. Anyways, guys, interesting discussion on the topics of Jeff Dujan's comments, Derek Murray's comments. Sometimes people have to just understand that it's okay to do things differently. And like one of the things that we often say, two things can be true, right? It is okay to do things differently. It's okay to give things a fair shot. You know, I can see why he has his reservations because it makes him uncomfortable. It's not something that he's accustomed to seeing or being a part of, right? But I think, you know, as we're going to close out, I think everyone in the West Indies, in the interest of West Indies cricket, needs to get behind Darren Sammy and this new dispensation on how we're doing things, right? Give it a chance. Those are my closing thoughts. Yours, Sammy?
My closing thoughts. I'm looking forward to the Australians. I heard Walter's comment on them gunning for us. I do believe they're gunning for us. But this year marks 30 years since we lost the Frank Worrell Trophy. So I'm behind Darren Sammy and the boys, and I'll be there clapping. Come on, boys.
Let me insert this. It's a good time to reclaim the Frank Worrell Trophy on the 20th year. At Sabina Park, by the way.
Of course. I see how it's all lined up. Yes,
yeah, Walter.
One's Courtney, bro. Anyway, closing thoughts. Our fathers need to listen to us. We're about taking over.
Yeah.
And we must remember that we need to listen to our sons.
Absolutely.
That's what is happening.
Absolutely.
West Indies cricket is family.
I will say this much. I will say this much. Somebody said this to me the other day. You're not too old to learn, and our youngsters, they're not too young to teach. All right?
Well put.
It was a pleasure catching up with you guys tonight, man. We're gonna do this. So what we say, we on next week or the following week?
Next week, man.
Good, I'm good for next week. We got cricket next week. We don't have 4-day starts back this
week.
It
starts on the 2nd, which is during the following week.
What is it? Oh.
Yeah, during the following week.
You find with that long a break?
All right, let's do this and finish it up. That is absolute madness. This is the second prolonged break we've had during the season. You understand? With nothing really preventing.
You guys thinking that I think they were given the territories to play T20 cricket?
Only Trinidad is playing, has a T20 tournament going on right now.
I see again, I got like a T10 one.
Listen, West Indies first class season should take precedence over everything. You understand? This is about West Indies cricket, not lick it. This is about West Indies cricket. You understand me?
Cricket is with the money there, though.
Yeah, got it. But big picture, right?
I prefer less of a lengthy break, especially as you said you had a 2 weeks break.
Yeah,
just about a month ago.
Yeah, and you had a play time where a lot of the senior cricketers are back home, so
yeah,
we missed that trick there. So, but
anyways, fellas, great having you guys tonight, and we will do this next week.
Yeah, respect.